Alright everyone, my name's Matt, welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV, and today we're just going to be having a short video on all the loan players in Newcastle, both the ones that were out on loan from the club and the ones we had loaned in for this season. Let's kick things off with the players that we had in on loan at the club this season, them of course being Danny Rose, Valentino Lazaro, Nabil Bentaleb and Jetro Willems. And we'll start with the 26-year-old Dutch left-back Willems on loan from Eintracht Frankfurt. We've been interested in him for ages. He was at PSV before he was at Eintracht, and we've always wanted to bring him in, see what he was like in the Prem, and I think he was arguably the standout performer out of these four. He came into the side, looked established, he obviously bagged a couple of goals against big teams as well. He rescued a draw against Man City that finished 2-2, and of course scored against Liverpool, the best defence in the league. And I think it was his attacking qualities that stood out more than his defensive qualities. He played 20 games in a black and white shirt, but he only kept 2 clean sheets. And that's not great for a left-back, obviously, but he did show flashes of promise, and of course he's only available for about 10-11 million in that buyout clause. So while he did get injured at the end of the season, I think it will be a class option for Newcastle going forward. Even if he's not necessarily the first choice left-back ahead of Paul Dummett or someone like that, it would be a good option to have, considering we paid like the same amount for Matt Ritchie back in 2016, I think it was. So it would be a good option to bring him in, see how he develops. Hopefully he'll shake off those injuries that he's had in the past and he can develop in a black and white shirt for Newcastle. So I would love to see him back, hopefully put on a permanent deal, but maybe back on loan next season as well. Sticking with that left-back position then, let's move on to Danny Rose. So the England international, we got him on loan from Spurs in January. He turned 30 while he was at the club, and he did take a while to hit the ground running. He had a really slow start. He looked sluggish, a bit off the pace. Didn't look like he wanted to be here at the start. He ended up playing 13 games for us, keeping 4 clean sheets in the process, 5 if you count the one against Norwich where he only played 10 minutes. And he averages out about 1 clean sheet in every 3 games, which isn't awful, but it's not the best. It's obviously a lot better than Jetro Willems' 1 in 10, but he does bring an experience to that back line. We don't have many old heads. Obviously, Jamal Lascelles is still a young player. He's still developing, although he is the captain. You've got Dubravka, who does bring that experience as well, but you know, Danny Rose is someone that's played in the Champions League. He's played in the World Cup. He's gone all the way to the final in the Champions League last year with Spurs. And, you know, he showed that experience playing out from the back. If we were under pressure, he'd, take the foul. He was winning like an average, I think it was 2 fouls per game, taking the pressure off that back line so we could play out again. As for moving forward with Newcastle, it's a tricky one because obviously he is a bit on the older side, 30 years of age. It would be a risk to take a punt for a high money transfer. Obviously he was being touted at around 50 million last season, which is ridiculous. Obviously nowhere near worth that anymore. But, there's rumours that he's available between 5 million and 15 million. So depending on whether Spurs wanted to sell, if he's part of their plans, it might be an option going forwards. Even if he's not a first team starter for us, it would be nice to have that experience in the dressing room. He seems to fit in with the lads quite well. So I would like to see him back if we can get him on the cheap. No way. I wouldn't pay more than 10 million for him, in my opinion. But he had an alright season. He wasn't, trailblazing. He wasn't world beating. But he fits in quite nicely into the squad, so I'd like to see him back. Speaking of players that we'd like to see more of, let's talk about Valentino Lazaro, or as I like to call him, Kennedy 2.0. So he came to us from Inter Milan on loan. He's technically a right wing back apparently, but we've seen more of him at right wing this season. 24 years old, so he should be getting towards his prime soon. And he had flashes of brilliance for us this season. He looked really good at points, and fans were gutted. I was gutted that we didn't get to see more of him. He only had 10 appearances for us all season, 5 from the starting lineup. And he had those flashes of brilliance. The game against Bournemouth, he was absolutely outstanding. Obviously got his only goal for us in that game, but he also rattled the bar from 30 yards out, which was impressive enough. He did have his moments though this season. Obviously, the unnecessary red card against Crystal Palace in like the 95th minute, the last kick of the game, got himself suspended for 3 games. At the minute, apparently he's got a £20 million buyout clause, which is about what we paid for Saint-Maximin. And when you look at the contributions that Saint-Maximin's had for us this season, you think, can Lazaro emulate that? Can he bring that to the side? And I'm not quite sure he can, but is Saint-Maximin the bar? Is that the level that we should be looking to, or should we be having our standards a little bit lower? Does need to work on his end product. He's only had 21 professional goal contributions at all the clubs he's been at. For 24 years of age, you should be contributing a bit more than that. 21 goals and assists in your entire career. is not the best ratio. Yes, he has been playing at right back for certain clubs, but you should be kind of kicking on, especially when you get into that age and coming towards your primes. Bentaleb, the Marmite of Newcastle midfielders. Some people love him, some people hate him. I personally would fall somewhere on the latter side. I hadn't made my mind up halfway through the season. I was just waiting for him to come to his own, show us why he's so good, why we bothered bringing him in the first place. And unfortunately, he just didn't do that for me. He played 15 games for us all season and he didn't register a single goal or assist, which is pretty miserable considering, Matty Longstaff even got on the score sheet a couple of times. So it's a tricky one because he's the same age as Isaac Hayden, and in my opinion, he's not even in the same ballpark. Isaac Hayden's miles ahead of him. So why would we bother bringing in this lad who, he's obviously failed at Spurs. He's been offloaded by a mid-table German team. Like, why would we bother taking a risk on him when we've got such a stacked midfield as it is? He's got an 8.6 million buyout clause apparently, and personally, I would rather see that money, invested into a new contract for Matty Longstaff. Why not invest in young local talent that could develop? He might not, it's still a risk, but he could develop. He's still got years on Bentaleb to get to his level, and even if it doesn't work out for Matty, that's cash in a sale later down the line. I don't see much point in bringing Bentaleb back to the club personally, either on loan or as a permanent transfer. He didn't do enough to justify wearing the shirt. He wasn't the worst player in the world. I have seen worse, but he just did nothing for me. We can't afford a player like him and a player like Shelby in the same midfield. And you put him alongside any of our other midfield and he just doesn't bring enough. You put him alongside Sean or you put him alongside Hayden and he just doesn't have enough about him. He played kind of best as a holding midfielder in that one game where he was deployed as a holding midfielder. But again, we've got enough of those. Like even Fabian Schär can play midfield. Not that he's the best, but he can do a job. Right, it's time to move on to those players we've had out on loan this season at various clubs across the world. So I like to call these the forgotten men because I guarantee you've forgotten at least one of these names that I'm about to read out. And that first one is going to be Ashraf Lazaar. Remember him? I don't. So he was 28 now, and we signed him for 2.5 million back in the day, and now he's on loan at second division Italian side Cosenza, coincidentally playing in the same team as ex-Newcastle legend Emmanuel Riviere, who's banging in goals for fun. But back to Lazaar, so he's in this team that are playing in the Italian second division, and he's struggling to break into the side. And this is a team that is battling relegation. This season, after the restart, they finished just outside the relegation zone. He only played 9 minutes since the restart. And honestly, if you can't break into a second division Italian side that's battling relegation, you've got absolutely no place at Newcastle United, unfortunately. I was excited when we signed him. He had a couple of moments in the Championship, in cup competitions that season. He looked like he had something about him. But honestly, God, like how the hell he's still on our wage bill, I have no idea. We need to get rid of him ASAP, whether that's, loaning him out again, selling him for good. I don't know when his contract runs out, but hopefully it's soon. Honestly, I don't know how we haven't got rid of him sooner. No disrespect to the lad. He obviously took a risk coming to this club. It just didn't work out for him, and unfortunately now we've got to find a new home for him, whether that's in Italian second division or somewhere else. But yeah, can't see him coming back to the club at all and fighting for a place. Unfortunately, whether he's a left back or a left winger, we've got plenty in that position to dominate him, really, unfortunately. So unfortunately for him, he's got no future in the Northeast, I think. Now on to Jacob Murphy. So I had really high hopes for him when we signed him. We signed him on my birthday in 2017, and obviously being a Toon fan himself, I was really excited to see him play. He was given the number 7 shirt, expected big things for him, big things, but after only 4 goal contributions in 41 games for us, it was evident that he was never really going to fit into the side. He doesn't quite have the edge that we needed. He's okay. He's proved he's okay in the Championship, which was maybe his level. He's been on loan at Chef Wed this season. He's 25 years old, so he's still, kind of hitting his prime. And he's actually their second top goal scorer this season. So he's had a really, really good season for them. And manager Gary Monk's already said that they'll be looking to get him in again next season. But because they're at the lower end of the table, they are going to have some competition on their hands from other Championship clubs. In my opinion, I would sell him on. We bought him for about 12 million and now he's valued at around 3 million. So we're going to take a massive loss on him. But if there's a bit of competition in the Championship for him, maybe we could jack up the price a little bit, recoup some of that money that we spent on him. But unfortunately, I really don't see a future of him in a black and white shirt. You know, think of the wingers that he's going to be competing with that we've got. Like even Saint-Maximin, like he's not even a shadow of the player that he is. So, unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be a future for him. Whether he stays for pre-season and fights for his place remains to be seen. But obviously, with the season rolling around quite quickly this time because of the pandemic, it will be easier to just kind of get him into a new team, whether that's Sheffield Wednesday or someone else, offload him to them for a decent price, get some of that money back and maybe put it in the transfer pot, you know, either if the takeover goes through eventually or Mike Ashley decides to spend some more money. And lastly, on the players that we had loaned out this season is Freddie Woodman. So he started the season as our fourth choice keeper, obviously with Rob Elliott still at the club. But obviously he's gone now, so he's been moved up to our third choice. He was on loan at Swansea City this season, and he had a fantastic season. There's no two ways about it. He played every single minute of the Championship campaign up until the point that he was injured against Leeds United and missed the last 3 games of the season and the playoffs as well for Swansea, which, you know, arguably cost them the playoffs. They got into the playoffs eventually and they lost that game. So who knows if Woodman could have made a difference. You know, he played 43 games all season and only conceded 50 goals. Now, it's not fair to compare him to Dubravka, but just statistically, Dubravka played 38 games and conceded 58 goals. Obviously, the calibre of team in the Premiership is much, much higher than the Championship, but Dubravka was conceding roughly every 59 minutes, whereas Woodman was conceding every 77. Well, I'd recorded this video and I'd said, you know, I'd love Freddie Woodman to put pen to paper, sign another contract, and then maybe send him back out on loan for another season. Hopefully that'll work out for him. And then as soon as I stopped recording, that's what he does. He's signed a brand new contract, 3 years, with an option to extend to a 4th year, and he's gone back on loan to Swansea City. So it's exactly what I wanted. Let us know if you agree with us, if you think that's the right deal for Freddie Woodman and the club, if you think he's got any chance of being Newcastle's future number 1. Let us know down in the comments below. But really, I think this is an optimistic move on behalf of the player and the club, so I really, really hope it works out for him. Right, that's it. That's all the players in or out on loan from Newcastle United. Let us know down below if you agree or disagree with what I've said, if you think those players should be given a chance or if we should move them on permanently. Also, if there's any other players in the squad at the minute that you think would benefit for a year or two out on loan rather than being in the squad, stick it in the comments, start a debate, let's get that conversation flowing. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. I've been Matt and you're watching Newcastle Fans TV.